Hi, this is Ruth Wiegand. Today we're going to demonstrate how HIPAA compliance check and data compliance maps will support claim level rejection. So for any of the transactions that are supported through compliance checking, if there are multiple transactions in a transmission, compliance check will sort the valid and invalid transactions into the separate valid and invalid out. However, for any of the 837 claims, you can also do that sorting and separating at an individual claim level. So we're just going to work through a few examples with how this works with a 837 institutional claim that has a couple of provider loops, and within those providers it has 2 subscribers, and in each one of the subscribers has a patient loop, so that we can kind of show how that hierarchy works with errors at different points and how they're reported with claim level rejection. So first of all, we're going to start with the good file, and we're going to start with the default parameters that are shipped with the product. And if we run that data through, then we see that the output produced is just a valid out, and we get our normal 999 acknowledgement. So I'm going to inject an error into the first claim here, which an easy way to do this is to change the total claim amount. So we'll get a balancing error. And now when I run the map again, I now get a valid and invalid out, but my valid out only has the second transaction, right? So the whole first transaction is failed because of the first bad claim. So all of the other claims are in here also. So to enable claim level rejection, we're going to go to the parameter file we're using. And again, this was the default, but I copied it from the base data directory, and I'm pointing to it in compliance check so that we can play around with it a little bit. So the main parameter used is claim level rejection, and this is disabled by default. So if we use the basic thing, if it's on, then we'll start to see the difference in claim level rejection with our error that has balancing role. So now when we run this again and we look at the data produced, our valid out does have the claims for that first transaction. However, if you look at the first claim that is included, it is not the one that was in error, but the second claim. I have these just numbered simply so I can kind of see which claim is which. And in the invalid out, we have the first transaction, that claim that's in error, and only that claim. So the other thing that was in this parameter was this all. And so this was added because it really was more appropriate to not fail the entire transaction if you had an error, say, at the subscriber level. So we're going to fix the balancing back in the original data. And as I said, each provider had, this provider hospital had two different subscribers in it, the one with 2 claims and then the other one with a patient with another claim. So if we inject an error at the subscriber level, let's say we create a type 2 error to not include the state abbreviation. Now I haven't changed the parameter yet. So when I run the map, what I'll now see is that my valid out file, once again, does not have any claims from that first transaction. So since the error was not within a claim with that setting of Y, it still fails the whole transaction. But if I use the new all parameter and then run the map in my valid out, I have the first transaction there, but the claim included is only the one from that second subscriber. So even though there were no errors within the claims themselves because the subscriber had an error, then both of those claims get pushed to the invalid output. So the other thing is, you'll notice I had enabled the TAC, but other than that, we had all the other defaults of the parameter file. The next parameter that is of interest for claim level rejection is generating that 277CA, or the claim acknowledgement. And for this, there is a 277 enabled parameter. And again, by default, this is off. So that's how we've been running. So, and like the other acknowledgements we have in compliance check, you typically have a never, only with errors, or always, even if it was good. So we're going to update this to errors. And since we were generating an error with our last data, we now get the 270CA out. And this is implemented based on the implementation guide for the X214 277CA. And so it, in its own right, is a reasonably complex transaction to interpret what is in here, but this will list the number of claims that are bad and the number of claims that are good at the provider level, right? So we had that one subscriber loop is an error. So 2 of the claims from this provider were an error and 1 was good. So that's how you get the 277CA. We're going to go back to our input data, and we're going to look at one more parameter, and that is the level of detail provided. And we don't want to fail all the subscribers. We're going to go back to a more typical claim level error. We're actually going to put it in the first claim in one of the service loops. We're just going to make this date bad, so that will fail. And want to look at what's produced here. So now our invalid.out is back to only having the one claim that has the invalid date. Let's see what our 270 say looks like. We now have 2 good, and this is actually the second transaction that's in the transmission. So this has, if you look at the level of hierarchical detail here, we have just the status amounts at the provider, and that's the farthest down it goes. So the parameter that can give you more there is this, which can show more details. So if we update this to claim, and then look at the 277CA produced, we now have, for that one error, we have more detail at the patient level. So you can get that detail with that parameter. The third option on that is all, which you have to be careful about using because it can cause a performance impact. So this will give you all the details, even if there are no errors within that provider claim. So if you just want to see all the details about the good statuses included, you can use that all. So that's the basics of claim level rejection. One thing to note, in the last release, 10.2, we did add support for running claim level rejection with the post-adjudicated claims. So your 298, 299, and 300, 837 transactions can also be processed with claim level rejection. The 277 produced is a different release identifier. It is not the 214, but the 364 for DRA, data reporting acknowledgement. It is produced in the same output card. So by default, it does have the same name, but it is formatted with any implementation guide requirements for that other transaction and not the 214. Thank you.